Today, I want to share with you how epilepsy has played such a big role in my career and how it led me to the seven-figure photographer. What's up, guys? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sam Marvin, and I have been in the photography industry for 25 plus years. And while I love creating business as my passion, I created the Seven-Figure Photographer to share my journey to seven figures and to help others find their way as well. I've been where you are. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today. Make sure to comment below where you're watching from or send us any questions you might have. We'd love to respond to those. And also make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. So as promised, I wanted to share with you a little bit about my story and how I became a photographer and what epilepsy really has to do with being a photographer. Currently, I reside in Idaho. I have a studio here in Meridian. We've been in the studio for about 5 years, but it's not always been that great. To kind of give you some backstory on it, I got fired from a job in 2008, and that was the last job that I had. I actually was working for a friend who knew that I was chasing the photography career and was kind of concerned about the amount of time that I was spending focused on photography versus his business. And so because of some conflicts of interest there, he let me go. At the time, I had already built a sports trailer, and so I was traveling up and down the West Coast shooting sporting events and whatnot. And a couple years after getting into that, my wife was really just struggling with how much I'd been gone, and I felt like going into seniors full-time was really where it was at for me. I felt the desire to really dive in, learn everything about education, and I don't think I've ever committed myself in my life so much to one thing as I did with photography. Like I said, it hadn't always been that good. And just to kind of give you a backstory, I started the business when I was 15 years old. And from that time, for a high school kid, I made a lot of money. And then as I kind of grew through the years, I lost interest in it and fought it and whatnot. But it really goes back to honestly, back to when I was a kid. I started taking pictures of the Little Mermaid on TV. My mom would get her camera back and have rolls of like 36 shots on her film that were just all the Little Mermaid. I'd be doing photo shoots with her on the TV as I watched the Little Mermaid. So that's kind of where it all started. But it actually goes so much deeper than that. I'm the seventh of 7 children. My brother, Jared, who is just 6 years older than me, or 5.5 years older than me, he was my closest of the 7 siblings. Obviously, we shared rooms together, but to me, he was just a normal kid. I was born January 19th, 1980. He was born in 1970. I can't remember the year, but he turned 6 on August 15th, 1980. And on the day that he turned 6, he decided to walk home on the highway to get his soccer ball that he'd gotten for his birthday, and saw a kitten crossing the road and decided to follow the cat, and was hit by a car and left for dead. My brother sat in a coma for about 2 weeks, and in that time, you can imagine what kind of pain that was for my mom. In fact, just a couple years ago, I got to hear the story from her mouth for the first time, and it was really interesting to put those two aspects together. But I remember my mom telling stories before about how she had prayed and asked God to take my brother so that he wouldn't have to live in pain for the rest of his life. Fortunately, he was able to overcome his injuries and be able to, he made it out of his coma. And my mom said that the day that he woke from his coma, she went in to visit him after the doctor had called and said that he had woken up. And he said to her, he says, "Mom, I've been to see Jesus." And she, of course, as a mother, was just crying, but he said he sent me home, or he sent me back. And so the reason I tell you this story is because my brother developed epilepsy from this. And as a child, from the age of 9, 10 years old, I was interested in business. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. That's the one thing I knew I wanted to be, was I wanted to own my own business. And that's what I really worked towards. I think at the age of 9, I had a pumpkin stand that I sold pumpkins on the side of the highway. By the time I was 12, I had developed plans to open a ski and bike shop. I even reached out to the CEO of Slime, Rodney Sigelski, and asked him if I could sell his product. And he personally met with me and sold me my first box of slime to be able to do that. Though I never actually opened a ski and bike shop, it was a whole lot more than I could handle at 12 years old. But as a kid, I was really frustrated because I saw my brother, who to me was no different than any other brother in the world, but he got free money, if you might. He got disability from the state of Idaho. And it was always super frustrating to me. And so everywhere I went, I'd make my brother pay for things. I'd make him pay for gas as I got older. I'd make him buy lunch, everything, because he got free money, and my mom made me work for everything that I had for the most part. A lot of times I was pretty spoiled, and she kind of gave me a lot of the things I wanted. But anything I really wanted, she'd make me work for. And it made me really frustrated and just didn't understand with my brother. When I was 14 years old, for Christmas, my brother actually, as a surprise, bought me my first camera. And with that money that he got from disability, he bought me my first camera. And I took that camera and I turned it into a business. By later that year, in fact, right close to his birthday, I started my business, and officially started my business when I was 15 years old. And of course, there were some fun aspects to it. We had a class at school that I got to work with and take pictures. I took pictures of a high school cheerleader who I was crazy about. She didn't even know I existed. But for the class, that was our goal, was to go in, find something to take pictures of, take the pictures, and then develop them in the darkroom. And so I found the cheerleader that I had this crush on, and I sat down with her. And well, I didn't sit down with her. We went and took pictures all over the place, and she totally fell for me. We dated for a hot second, and her mom loved the picture so much she wrote me a check for $250. And I was so excited. I remember laying in bed that night thinking how filthy rich I was. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to make so much money. I'm going to be so rich. At 15 years old, $250 was apparently a lot to me back in that time. And so her mom wrote me the check, and she said, I want as many pictures as I can get. Well, sadly, I didn't know much about business or anything about the dirty P word, the profit. And so I went to Kmart and I bought her $250 worth of 8x10s and 4x6s, and I delivered them to her, and I was so proud. I'd made so much money, but I spent it all on product for my client. But that's really where my business started. And I remember just being so excited about it. I worked at it for so long. And as years went on, I never had any clue, any realization that without my brother's sacrifice, that's what gave me the opportunity to be a photographer. And, he struggles with his epilepsy. He's never been able to hold down a job. He's never been able to have a car. He's never been able to get married. All those things were really hard for him. And so I saw those, now I see those things as a sacrifice and feel the necessity to uphold his legacy, if you will, in that case. Moving forward, I remember in 2008, it was 2014, I'd been self-employed for about 5 years. I'd shot a lot of weddings. I was never doing great. I was never just making a killing. My sports photography business was doing okay, but I ended up, I just really spent most of the money traveling, trying to get to the different events. And so I just I never quite got ahead with that situation. Until one day, I had a friend ask me to watch Creative Live. They were going on Creative Live. And so I watched Creative Live with Sal Sincata. And I was so excited. I heard him say that he was averaging 50 seniors a year with an average sale of $2,000 per senior. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I can finally shoot seniors and do that and make a lot of money. In my head, I wanted to make $100,000. And so that was my 5-year goal, was to shoot 50 seniors a year and make a $2,000 average. And I couldn't figure out how to make that work, but I just knew that I wanted to do it. I told my wife that I wanted to sell my trailer and go into seniors full time. And honestly, before that ever happened, I was shooting typically 4 to 5 seniors a year, and I was trying to figure out how can I shoot, and I was selling them at $250 a pop. I was taking pictures. I'd give them all to them on a disc. I would do a couple of little edits, if you can call them edits. They were basically just filters from Lightroom, and I'd send them off to the client. And I was like, how can I make $100,000 or $1 million doing $250 per senior? And I had the numbers worked out. I was like, man, if I could just do it. And I was working really hard. I finally had, from my sports business, I had an experience where we were out shooting an event. It was called Ride Idaho. And at the very last stage of one of those events, we took a picture of a gentleman and his daughter. And that night he died. And his daughter was, of course, just torn up about it. It was completely unexpected. He was a very healthy, very physically fit individual. And basically from that, what happened was her boyfriend reached out to me and asked me if he could get a copy of the picture. I don't like to make money off of people's loss, and so I chose to give him the posters free of cost. I had them made for him, and he was so moved by it that he told his sister about me and asked or told his sister to have me do his niece's senior pictures. And we got everything set up. I went and took pictures of him. I had everything set up for my very first in-person sales, and I was terrified. I was scared as could be. And I had her into our home, sat down, put all the pictures up on the TV, showed them to her in a slideshow. I didn't have like Pro Select or anything like that. And I remember feeling so deflated because she said, honestly, I don't have time to do all this right now. But what she said next was really what changed my whole photography business. And she said, can I just write you a check for $2,500? And if you could just put them online and I'll pick them out from there. And she says, would that be enough? Like, will that work? And I remember just kind of like feeling like an out of body experience, just shaking my head. I was like, yeah, I think that'll work. I think that'll be okay. But that was the time where I realized that I could really make a living as a portrait photographer. That was the first time it ever went from being questionable, but I was still like on the hunt. I was still trying as hard as I could to make it as a photographer. That was the moment when I realized this is possible. Shortly thereafter, she ordered all her 5x7s and 8x10s at $28 a piece off of our website. And she gave me a call and she said, hey, I just made my order, but I realized I'm going to need some frames. She's like, can I just write you a check for $1,500 and we can figure out the frames later? And I was just like, yeah, that's great. Like, we can do that. And so my very first in-person sales ended up being a $4,000 sale. And what a powerful shift in my mind that I experienced. And it was really what gave me the strength to know that I could do what I can do. At this current juncture, we're December 2nd, 2020, when this is being recorded. We just had the best month of our existence last year, or last November, or just last week, the end of November 2020, in a downturn in the economy or a challenging time with the pandemic and everything. We just had not only the best month, but we are on track right now to break a record and have our best year we've ever had. And I think that a lot of that is due to my constant effort to grow and to progress in this business. But that's what really brought me forward, helped me to realize, in the last couple of years, we've done a fundraiser for epilepsy. I never even really put it together. Epilepsy was just something I did. I worked with them because of my brother's background, but also the person that fired me in 2008, my friend that fired me and set me on my way to being self-employed. Honestly, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I having that decision made for me was the best thing that ever happened to me. But that same person has become one of my best clients. Not only that, that same person, his daughter was diagnosed and had she had a seizure one time coming back from a trip that they had, and she was diagnosed with epilepsy. And so it worked out so well together. But I realized that last year on the stage, as we were doing our fashion show, I realized that epilepsy has come very full circle in my business. It's the reason I'm a photographer. It gave me what I had. And so for me, it's all about being able to continue on my brother's legacy, to give him some value and knowing that I touched the lives of so many people because of his sacrifice for me. And it goes much further than that. The whole purpose, the whole reason I started the 7-Figure Photographer was purely just for the opportunity to share with people and to help people grow their businesses to find the same kind of success that we've been able to have. And so that's kind of a little story about how we became what we are, or I became what I am. I couldn't do it without my team. They're a great help. But you know, that's why I'm here, and my goal is to help any of you guys that need help, to help you see the potential and the possibilities in this industry, to make enough money to survive, enough money to not just survive, but to thrive and to support your families and to have a lot of fun doing it. I love what I do. To me, it's not work. I get to have fun every day. Of course, you have those days where it's challenging, but I love what I do and I enjoy it. So I'd love to hear some comments from you guys about your story, where you got started, some of the times that maybe helped you see when it was possible. It's a lot like the 4-minute mile. If you've ever heard, for many years, the 4-minute mile was completely out of the question. Nobody believed it could be done. But then when that first time somebody did it, somebody ran the 4-minute mile, then that record was broken again and again. And the 4-minute mile was broken again and again. And so once you see that somebody can do it, or once you see that light or that potential, that's all it takes sometimes to help you see the possibilities in yourself. That's it for now, guys. Check us out next time here at the 7-Figure Photographer. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and smash the stupid button.